That's just to get the camera and the mics in sync. So when we come to edit it, and there's loads of to take out,
and we actually have
it's
pressed
all
record. It's all.
Anyway, this is a pilot episode of a podcast that we're bringing to you, and it's called Dad's at Work. The acronym is DOOR. For all you musos out there, that's like Logic, Ableton. For people who aren't musos, it's just Dad's at Work. So don't bother with the acronym. In the previous tape that we didn't record, I handed over to Tom at this point and asked him to introduce the podcast. So that's what I'm going to do now, Tom.
Right. Thanks, Max.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Dad's at Work. So why did we want to get this podcast up and running? Well, as often happens with podcasts, it all sort of originates from a pub, from a discussion we've had about setting one up together since we've worked together in the past.
Quite a while ago, to be fair.
Where we thought about this and thought, we've got something to talk about. We're both dads. We have been dads for a couple of years now. In your case, a little bit longer with me.
He is 3.5.
3.5.
Will be 4 in August.
And so Hugo, he will be 8 this year.
Wow,
that is crazy.
Mine has got a name as well. It's Milo, which I forgot to say.
I thought it was just it.
The thing, the child. Usually,
the child.
Yeah.
So ever since we first met, Max and I have the conversation's always started with music, hasn't it?
Always.
What we're listening to whilst we were working.
Yeah.
We've always had a passion for music. I've been in bands. You've done your own stuff. You've released music. You've had far more production experience than I do. But essentially, the podcast idea stems from a love for music, a passion for creativity, and both of us being dads and wanting some outlet to sort of talk about that. And
I think so. I think we touched on it the other week, actually, in the pub, funnily enough. And it was sort of like the idea of, because when you become a dad, I don't think anyone prepares you for the amount of time that you lose for friends, for just doing something
time for you. Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm sure, there might be young dads, new dads, old dads listening to this now. They might not, considering what we do with it. But it's for the people who sort of feel that, I don't know, 'cause it's a really weird one, because becoming a dad is one of the best things in the world, but it's something that hugely changes your world at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I think that it can make you, I think it can leave you feeling lost at times.
Yeah.
And that outlet just to vent and talk like we are with this. So, it's for those people.
It is, absolutely. All I was going to say, just to add to what Max has said.
My really insightful comments there.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, usually what I do is I say something slightly comprehensible and then you put it in a better way.
No.
So that's what's going to happen right now. Please.
No, you set me up for a fall. No, all I was going to say was absolutely agree. It's your identity immediately changes from birth. You're now dad. You're now, and especially, once they start calling you dad.
And make no mistake, listeners, that is one of the best things in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one of the, it's not scary, but it's like you are, you just thrust upon this dad role, which nobody can really prepare you for at all.
No, and it's the accountability. It's this little human is relying on you.
Exactly.
And if you don't bring home the bacon, what's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, it's the idea. It's about dealing with the identity changes that happen upon becoming a father, and life, creativity, your work, and home life. How that intertwines. Is there a work-life balance? Is it just a waste of time talking about that? Are there ways that you can structure your life in such a way that your family life isn't as affected as it could be by your work? And we're hoping to speak to dads who are working in the creative industries, in particular music, because obviously this is something that we're both massively interested in, and hearing people in all different types and lines of work. And how do they cope, essentially? How are they getting through working, doing the day-to-day once they've left the house and coming back to the house, the family home? What's that like?
I think it's a big thing, because it's not like we want to talk to like massive. I mean, if massive music producers want to come on, you're more than welcome. But it's more. It's anybody with that interest in music, like myself. I work 9 to 5 most days. I do have the benefit of flexible working, but I think it's the time of giving yourself a break to be creative that I'm quite interested in.
I think, sorry to cut you off, Max.
No, do it.
I think,
because I'd run out of things at that point.
No,
anyway.
I think that's one area that I think you really excel in.
Thank you.
You've always, from what I've seen from the music that you've released and things like that, you make time for your creative outlet.
I try. I do try.
And you manage to, produce some really great music, and you release it, and you've got a family at home, and it works, So
I think for me, if music wasn't such an integral part of my mental health, and keeping me balanced, then I probably wouldn't make as much time as I do. But that time can be sat on the sofa while your son, daughter, your partner's there, and you're just on the laptop with your headphones on. Like, you're still there and you're still available. You're not locking yourself away in a cupboard. But I think it's important not to sort of pigeonhole that creativity almost needs a space sometimes. Sometimes
you're not being creative unless you're in the studio.
Exactly.
You're in the zone, and
Studios
you're on the
expensive. Bar this one, but it's.
There are ways of being resourceful.
I think that's what I'm trying to get. See, there you go, dressing that up nicely. But it's. I think even if you're not into music, even if it's a sport or cooking or whatever, I think you need to remember that your happiness affects the rest of your family. Like, if you're not happy, you're going to negatively affect them. If you need to take 2-3 hours to go and, I don't know, cook a casserole or whatever, then do it. They'll benefit at the end by a delicious casserole, and you'll benefit by having that time out.
Yeah, absolutely.
See what I've done? I've moved the theme all the way from music to cooking. So you can get that back on track.
Well, I was going to say, because
Thank you. And I don't cook casseroles, by the way, because I think they're a waste of time.
It's waste of time. One of my favourites.
This is coming from forever.
They do take forever.
They take absolutely ages, and then you get it out the slow cooker, and you're like, what was the point in that?
I mean, I really dislike cooking. So, talk about derailing the conversation, an area where I've never tried your cooking, knowledge.
So I won't comment.
I really like what you said before about, finding that time. What I sort of got from what you're saying there, Max, is this isn't going to be a life, or the way I see it, this is the ideal family home. This is this is the perfect relationship with the symbiotic, work-life balance with creative work or hobbies, passions, and how that merges with whatever your home life may be. Because God knows, my home life isn't perfect, but there are ways that you have to try and manage that for your own mental health. And what you were saying there, Max, about, actually indulging your hobbies and taking the time out for your mental health to listen to music or just think sort of like creatively about a melody or whatever. It might be sitting on the sofa, but am I right in thinking that your partner is sort of not bought into that, but is sort of on a wavelength to say, well, yeah, Max is in his space right now. He's listening to something. I'm not necessarily going to disturb him. Maybe if it goes over, there's a cap.
Usually it's the other way. She's like, your headphones are too loud. I can hear you.
Right.
And then, and this isn't bad mouthing her at all, because I think it's a really nice trait. Because when you do make music, you get into the trap of thinking, this has got to be the next number one. I've always thought like that. And then when someone goes, I can hear your headphones, turn it down, it's a really nice way to get back to reality. The only downside is when you get it to a point that you want her to listen to it, she's like, I've heard it. I've heard it like 10 times over. I'm like, yeah, but every mix is slightly different.
Yeah, I'm actually sick of it now, so can you just turn it off?
Yeah, so that's the one downside of that. But picking up on something you just said, just then, Tom, well, I think you did anyway. It was about advice. You were going down that sort of route, and what you quite nicely laid out what you want this podcast to be, and I echo that. And I think this podcast is not a place for, I don't want to say it's not a place for advice, because you might take something from it, but we're not knowingly giving you advice, because I think there's so many, to use a big word, thought leaders out there. See, I can pull it out of the park sometimes.
You can.
But I think there's so many thought leaders out there who thrust their opinions on people. Sometimes the best way to find your own way is to go your own way.
Oh, Max, it's just so deep. And actually, I feel personally liberated by what you've just said.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I'm not on here to be, a thought leader. What I'd really like to do is speak to people and pick up as much as I can from people who are living interesting lives and at a later stage than what I am, whether that's in any home life, in work life, and see how they're managing things, and take from them what I can, what's relevant, what could work for me, so my hope is for anyone who's listening to this can take out anything they want, any sort of tips you hear. I'm hoping you can find them here. I mean, I'm hoping to find it here myself,
Well, I'm not going to guarantee that. Not personally, anyway, because I just come out with. I think I wouldn't say I've got an issue, and I haven't. Well, not an issue on the podcast issues, anyway. Yeah. But I think it's just two guys having a chat, ultimately, with people who we're interested in. It's. I feel like too many times in life, you're told what to think, you're told what to believe, and that that can be from upbringing, that can be from the media, TV, whatever. I think in 2025, this day and age, having your own opinion on the state of the world, on politics, whatever it is powerful. I think to be able to articulate what you think as well and have the confidence to do that is key, because so many times people... I mean, I'm not saying I'm a controversial character, because I'm not. I'm not going out there doing anything controversial. Well, not that I know of. But I think to have your own opinion and be able to talk about it is a really interesting thing. And I think too often, when you do have your own opinion, sometimes you're immediately seen as abrasive.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
Sometimes
there's a great quote. I'd love to be able to quote. I'm just one of these people that something springs to mind, and I just like to sort of reel it off. But it's something to do with have strong opinions loosely held, rather than loose opinions strongly held. Does that make sense? Have I said that the wrong way round?
But I think that actually works both ways. But I liked your way better. I thought that was very insightful.
Strong opinions, it's not about being abrasive. It's it's okay to have your own opinion, but be ready to be challenged. Essentially, and have it's good to have had enough thought about your opinion to say, well, look, I'm likely to get challenged by this angle because I know the weakness of my opinion is here, and so blah blah blah. And either your opinion may cave and change in time. We're allowed to change our opinions.
Do people? This is a question. Do people think enough? Because I've always thought that I'm a thinker.
When I'm driving, it doesn't seem like people are thinking all that much.
No.
But I'm pretty sure they are.
Funnily enough, when I was driving, and some people called me a bit strange for this, but I was driving along the road the other day, and it's trimming hedgerow season. Okay. So there was this tractor blocking the road, but he was trimming the hedgerows, right?
Just smashing it up.
He had a machine and that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I was like, hang on a second, we're rewilding places. We're now putting aside places for rewilding. So why can't that be a hedgerow at the side of the road? Now, I know the DVLA and the National Highways Agency will have their own opinion on that, but it's part of the human condition, isn't it? To destroy something and then move it somewhere else and feel like you're caring for it.
Were they just destroying the hedge? Sorry,
well, no, they would just cut. They would. I'm being dramatic. They would just cut in the grass. They were just cutting the grass.
Basically, they were just.
But what I was thinking was dragonflies and stuff like that were probably living in the hedge.
Oh, right. Okay.
So why are we trimming the hedge when we want more insects in that and wildlife to thrive?
I get that.
But this is not a debate about hedgerows or anything. This is me saying that I was thinking.
Yeah,
sometimes that's
thinking,
dangerous.
That is, and when you're driving, especially, are they smashing this hedge up or are they just trimming it? I think there's an ecological argument.
I've just gone into the back of a tractor.
Yeah, exactly. Like churned up the other side and shredded.
Yeah.
There's an ecological discussion to be had about hedges and their benefits for ground nesting birds because.
Probably not for this podcast.
Not for this podcast.
But there is a very valid.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there is a podcast for that already. Because we are quite late to the podcast. Anyway.
I mean, look, feel free. If, hedges and ecological arguments for trimming hedges on the side of the road is your thing,
please do get in touch. Well, no, not with us, actually. Please don't get in touch.
Going to say go. Very, very politely, just sort of go elsewhere. You may not find what you're looking for.
Go to the Woodland Society podcast.
And I'll probably follow you, actually, because I think that's quite an interesting conversation.
I thought
so.
So,
see you, Max. To take it back to what you were saying, people don't think enough.
I was making a point there.
I know, but you were saying people don't think enough. And, essentially, I think you're right. You are probably an outlier. In maybe thinking too much about certain things when you're driving, but no, I get it. I think the world moves very fast, and I don't think people have time to think or too deeply about things. I mean,
life is fast.
Life is going very fast, and it's cliche. It feels cliche, but it's cost of living. You know, like we are all feeling the pinch. You know, anyone working day to day, selling their time for money, as most of us are. We're all feeling the pinch. So yeah, sometimes you just don't. You don't feel like you've got the brain bandwidth to like be thinking about anything that deep. You know,
I think surviving.
That's the next thing.
Struggling on,
right? Okay,
sometimes.
But I would bet a large quantity of money that I do not have that creative people and people who we like talking to and we're hoping to speak to and have listened to this podcast, they are going to be probably outliers like us too, and they're probably going to be thinking about these sorts of things, trying to improve their lot. Obviously, all creatives, we're all trying to find our next, you know, great thing. Be that, you know, a particular bit, you know, and the next joke, the next sort of great joke in comedy, or the next particular track that you're working on, an idea you want to get out there. We're all looking for that next bit, the next improvement. We're all thinking about that side of things. So, I think I'm hoping we can meet a similar crowd to us here.
Yeah, I didn't think I would interrupt there because you were putting that better than I ever could.
I was literally going to bring up, it needs no explaining that clearly the thoughts, ideas, the biases, dare I say it, that we have as two cis men is going to be coming to the front. Even the biases
we don't know. You know, we could be biased going into a topic completely blinded by the fact that we are biased.
We'd both like this to be as sort of invitational, as open as possible, but in the same breath, you know, I'm not going to speak for all dads, as neither you would, but I wouldn't even attempt to speak or imagine what the mothers are going through, the single mothers, you know, mothers who are in relationships and having, you know, doing creative things, and you know, I can't speak to that experience. I can only speak to my experience.
Exactly, so, and you know, and we're not going on what our lives are so hard. That's not what this is about. This is a safe space for us to externalise our thoughts, and you know, potentially speak to people who might want to come and speak to us after some persuading. Absolutely. Whatever that may be.
We might have to ply them with. What can we ply them with?
I'll just do an accent.
Yeah, just to get them on.
No, I'll be the guest. I'll do an accent.
Oh, right, okay.
Hopefully we don't get to that point.
Just full-blown deception. Just, you know, Do you do any good accents?
No, but I'm not. This is not the platform.
Come on.
This is not the platform.
We'll cut that out.
To start doing accents on.
It's good. I'm looking forward to it. I think, I hope people who are listening enjoy it. You know, it's great to spend time with mates and have a laugh and talk about things that we're both interested in. We're gonna have a good time, and hopefully you guys can too.
Because as much as, you know, it's therapy for you, it's therapy for us. You know,
absolutely.
We're the ones doing this, and hopefully proving to you that you can do anything you want to do. Because if we can do this, then you can surely achieve your dreams.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know. So that feels like quite a natural conclusion to the pilot, or whatever this goes out as. And I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it, mate, to be honest, because it's a good platform, this.
I think so. I think, I mean, coming up in further episodes, I'm looking forward to interview some people. I think that would be wicked.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go into a whole schedule then that you'd already done. Coming up, looking forward to speaking to people.
Coming to speak to...
Yes.
People.
Some people.
Yeah. No.
interesting people.
Well, we've got ideas of
We've
who
got
we'd
connections.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, I thought
we've
that.
got.